Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Gave him all the information that I received. Shortly thereafter, I was formally ordered not to investigate it any further.
The Lee County Sheriff's Office is under investigation by the FBI. Tonight, 3 former deputies say the feds are looking into claims brought about by the Free Report. Now, earlier this year, the report exposed deep corruption within the department, including a high-level officer protecting 2 drug dealers. The Night Beat's John Carlos Estrada spoke to a former deputy tonight and joins us live from LCSO headquarters with more. John Carlos?
Bob, that's right. I spoke to Mike Hollow tonight. He is the former head of the internal affairs here at LCSO. He served in that capacity from 2014 to 2016. He also ran for mayor of Cape Coral. Now, he tells me that the FBI was in contact with him just a few months back, and he says it's all in connection to allegations of LCSO here while he was here. The FBI is now talking to at least one former Lee County Sheriff's deputy about possible corruption at LCSO.
Yes, it was the FBI that I spoke to.
Mike Hollow, as head of the Internal Affairs, says he was one of the first to hear and investigate potentially criminal activity in 2015 by some of his own.
After I was able to corroborate a lot of the allegations that were made, I went and spoke directly to the sheriff.
He says his complaints didn't go anywhere.
Gave him all the information that I received. Shortly thereafter, I was formally ordered not to investigate it any further.
Until recently, when he says the FBI called him asking about possible corruption within LCSO.
My last conversation with any law enforcement agency was just a few months ago.
Hollow says some of the complaints match up with the Free Report's bombshell appendix released to the public in October. Only 74 words can be seen in the heavily redacted document. It mentions deputies protecting drug dealers, sheriff's vehicles being used to transport drugs, and murders being ordered.
Yes,
okay.
I did hear of it before, and some of those allegations were brought forth as well from members of the sheriff's office.
As someone with 15 years in law enforcement, Hollow says the sheriff's office needs to be as open as it can be during this criminal investigation, which now involves the FBI.
The best thing that any law enforcement agency can do is to be upfront and transparent with the information they have.
Now, we did reach out to LCSO today. They have not responded to us. However, they did respond back in October when that Free Report appendix was released. And here's what they said. They said at the time that they had no knowledge or reason to believe any deputy is under investigation for anything related to the matters of the Free Report. On the Night Beat, John Carlos Estrada, Wink News Now.
It was truly a privilege to do this engagement and be retained by the city of Fort Myers to look into the police department. We were brought in by the city with no strictures placed on us. We were given unfettered access to the department and all its members. This report was not to zero in on the good things the police department does, that they do on a daily basis. It was a critical evaluation. It was to look at the bad things. So not only did they ask us to do an evaluation, but they wanted us to zero in on the things that were not working right, or the perception was they were not working right. We were tasked by the city to identify impediments to addressing crime within the city of Fort Myers, and more specifically within the Dunbar community. There was a buyout in 2008, and there's realities of life. And the realities of life is a police department or any municipal agency is funded by public monies. But when that buyout occurred, the city lost a great deal of very experienced officers. And you just don't replace that overnight. And that was a problem. And then when the budgetary problems persist and you cannot replace officers, and the officers continue to operate on a lower level in terms of numbers, their job is harder. So that officer who responds to something on the street where it would have been better to spend more time has to immediately leave that call to go to another call. And so the public then feels they're not getting the proper attention because at that call maybe they needed that officer longer, and the public's right. but the officer had to move on to another call, and the officer is right. So there are issues when you're not properly staffed, and that's something the city is committed to address. Another one is there is a real thought within the department that preferential treatment permeated the entire organization. In other words, the great majority, if not almost every single person we interviewed, said there was a cliquish system within the department. You either were in or you were out. And many of them really felt that was a problem, as do we. But in any small organization, you're going to have that. One thing that was felt was so many of the supervisors come out of the same group, the narcotics section, and then move their way through. Another issue was the failure to address certain integrity issues. We did, through our interviews, learn that there were some integrity issues within the department. That does occur, and that is something, when it occurs, must be dealt with. The way it was dealt with historically was to not deal with it. That cannot happen. That is something that needs to be addressed one way or the other. Again, the current administration, the chief, is committed to dealing with those issues and dealing with them heads on. There's no other way. You must understand that if you don't deal with them, your department is isolated, which in very many ways has happened from other law enforcement entities in the area. They lack sufficient physical space, and this goes to support staff as well. You know, crime scene technicians, we run through it in a report. There's a lot of inadequate spacing, and as we mentioned, a lot of this is historical and has been going on for years, and they've been making do. Eventually, to do the job right, you need the proper resources. Our recommendations that we've made in the report, and we've made a number of them, we tiered and made a tiered approach to them. The reason for that is we wanted to put different levels. Tier 1 are recommendations that we believe the city must institute immediately because it affects the safety of the citizens of Fort Myers. So that has to be done right now. An example, the communications division. Historically, that section has been tremendously understaffed. And the fear is from within the police department, and again, much of what we learned comes from the police department. The fear was that someone could get hurt or worse if they don't adequately respond to the 911 calls. And that's something that the city jumped on. So we've got 4 tiers. Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then tier 4, to go to the opposite end of the spectrum, are going to be those things that, such as, can the city afford a new building? Or can the city renovate that building? Or provide other places or locations that might supplement the existing space? Because like anything else, they're running out of space, and that's something that the city is looking into. So that is important and essential, but not as timely as something like responding to 911 calls.
The action steps that are recommended will be acted upon immediately. Some of the things I want to bring out to you. Our #1 priority at all times is safety of our citizens. To that end, we have hired 4 new staff members in the communication section to enhance the response time for our officers. We've invested in 142 brand new body cameras that are going to be used by the department that we're starting to deploy this week. Since my appointment, we have already hired 8 new police officers. We have begun a search for a full-time public information officer. Training practices and procedures need to be brought up to date. We have already embarked upon a strategic training and education program to educate our officers and give them the tools they need to do their job. Substations. We have already started looking at several substations before the report was issued, and indeed the report recommended that we do so. We'll have more details about specific location of these substations, but in the report, one were the recommendations that we put a substation in the Dunbar community area, which we will do. Overall, we have improved the safety of our citizens and our neighborhoods, and we will continue to do so.
It's interesting to see how little a difference there is between so many of the police officers' views and people in the community, and how they share a common concern, and yet there's been tensions and there's been problems like anywhere else. And the goal here is to make the department as good as it can be, to let the public know that the department's there to serve them, and try to meld those interests. And that's what the city is committed to doing.
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if some, if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave a, let's say, actually, yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.